Had to do some double checking before we ran this story back just to see if there was a verdict that has come in yet, because this should really be kind of straightforward. You take a look and you compare and contrast between the Kim Potter trial and even just the Kyle Rittenhouse, just based on the charges themselves. Kyle Rittenhouse had 5 different counts and a whole host of, I think it was 7 lesser included charges in total, and that took, what, 5 days in order for the jury to come back with a verdict? This is two counts, and they're ostensibly the exact same counts, okay? They both rely on a conscious disregard of Kim Potter using her firearm, okay? That she was just really saying taser, taser, taser because she knew she pulled her gun, and she knew that she was acting recklessly, okay? In the colloquial sense, she was being negligent with the use of her firearm. And she really, actually, subconsciously wanted to kill Daunte Wright. This is not the case, okay? And that's the underlying factor, and that's the threshold that needs to be met by the panel of 12 jurors, okay? And varying different ages that's on there, but there's 6 men and 6 women, okay? And we don't really know who's on there, okay? We could go back and take a look at the hours and hours and days of the jury selection, but I won't do that to myself, and mostly that just seems preposterous at this point. But mostly, okay, remember, you got to take into account this is Minneapolis, okay? So the best you can hope is just kind of a center left jury, okay? A Midwestern liberal slant, okay? What does that necessarily mean? I don't know, but you're also taking it from Minneapolis, ground zero of Black Lives Matter version 2. So who really knows how this is going to shake out at the end? Listen, I've watched every second of this trial, listened to every second of deliberations, everything that could be possibly going on within the confines of the courtroom itself, as excruciating as it's been. And yes, I've done a lot of coverage, and Friday's video, the longest video that's ever been on my channel, mostly because there's a lot of information to relay. And yeah, there was the closing arguments that happened today. The long and short of it, the harpy, okay, Erin Eldridge, she went up there, delivered the first, okay, of 2. Funny how that works. It's not supposed to work that way. Closing arguments for the state. Earl Gray came up like a fucking house on fire and then just eventually petered out by the end of his version of the closing arguments. And then Matthew Frank, the stuttering, muttering old prick, came up and was supposed to rebut the arguments, the closing arguments of Earl Gray, but went into a 40-minute long diatribe of just extended arguments from his side, from the prosecution side. And the defense, to their credit, objected about a half dozen times to the fact that a rebuttal is just supposed to rebut anything that they brought up that the defense brought up that the prosecution would think is somehow unjust, somehow misleading, and they have the opportunity to address the jury because at the end of the day, they have the harder version. Theoretically, they have the harder version of this case because they have to prove the charges beyond a reasonable doubt, so they get the last word. Okay, so there's no rebuttal to the rebuttal. Otherwise, we'd still be here of these old fucks just going back and forth and Erin Eldridge just cross-armed in the courtroom just to being a miserable bitch, okay? And you know what? Maybe this is my bias coming out. I can't stand her vocal cadence. I can't stand her fry. But then at the end of the day, even though you had that whole host of prosecutors who were in the courtroom, okay, you had Larson who was back there who just basically did all of the direct examination and some of the character work of the defense's witnesses that came up. Okay, he was not going to be doing any of the closing statements. He was definitely number 3 on the depth chart. I thought closing arguments would probably be done by Frank and the rebuttal by Frank as well, mostly because I'm pretty sure he's the lead attorney on this, and definitely, okay, after the disgusting display that happened from Eldridge on Friday, I thought that, yeah, maybe she would have got benched, but no, she was out there. She was the first voice that was heard from the prosecution side to the jury. So, okay, the only thing that I can think of, it's like, objectively, that was a really bad cross-examination of Kim Potter, unless it played well for the jury, and we can't see the jury's reaction to this, okay? But maybe, okay, this is what I'm thinking. It's basically, woman's there, woman defendant, therefore, women needs to be represented, needs to be the representative of the state. I guess. I don't know. But then why would you give Frank the last word if you're just trying to play identity politics? It's like, okay, maybe Erin Eldridge, okay, played really bad over the video feed. Okay, maybe everybody just perceived her as just being a fucking ice queen with just really cunty arguments. Maybe that's just how she played on the video feed, and then the people who were in the courtroom and the jury really latched onto that, and therefore she needed to give the hour-long closing to begin with, and then they just followed it up with sleep-inducing Frank for the 40-minute-long rebuttal, which was just basically an additional close, which he's not entitled to do. But again, that's how that shit played out, and that's just a nice little encapsulation. We've already gotten, I don't know how long this is going to be edited out to, but yeah, just about in honor around 5 minutes, so we should probably get to the guts of this, okay? And I'm not going to run it down point by point by point. We're just going to give you some of the highlight reel points that were out there from closing argument from the state, closing argument from Earl Gray, who just, like I said, came in like a house of fire. He took off like a jet from the outset. And then Matthew Frank's preposterous rebuttal. And then since then, like the headlines say, jury deliberations begin. And yeah, okay, I don't anticipate, even though, okay, at the time I'm recording this, okay, local time for Minneapolis, they still have about another 70 minutes of deliberation time today. I expect a verdict tomorrow. Okay, mostly because you take a look at the calendar and you take a look at the amount of charges that's there. The jury members themselves, and there is a partial sequestration. Okay, they were allowed to go home at the end of the day during trial, during jury selection. But right now, when it comes to deliberations, they're being sequestered right now. So I don't know necessarily how this is going to work. Like if they're going to be deliberating throughout the day once they're not in the courtroom, but they're going to be put up in a hotel and then they're going to be coming back to deliberate through the end of the day. So I anticipate something tomorrow, probably after lunch. You know what? Hey, always want a free lunch. So it's something early afternoon tomorrow, I'd imagine, okay? Because we're coming up on Christmas. Mostly these people just want to put the finishing touches. They want to be at home with their family. They could give a fuck at the end of this. But if you take a look at the facts of the case itself, I don't know how you figure out that Kim Potter knew that she was holding a gun. There was zero indication to that, and the state proved none of that, okay? But they kept telling you, oh, she was being reckless. Well, that's not the fucking letter of the law. Those aren't the charges that were brought to her that you had to prove, okay? You had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she knew she was holding a gun. She knew what she did was directly going to cause the death of Daunte Wright. You guys set yourself up for failure, and you didn't present a case that proved any of the facts that you alleged are there. You're just trying to muddy the waters. Exactly what everybody anticipated their closing argument was going to be. Speaking on Monday morning, prosecutor Erin Eldridge, cried and shrieked and slowly plodded through her fucking clothes. And again, okay, like I was listening to all this stuff. And she really, okay, it probably went twice as long as it should have because she got through all of the gist of her case, okay? She presented a very emotional detail of events. It's like he was a father, Daunte Wright was a father. Yeah, he could have been at home. He could have been banging other Tinder dates. And she didn't say that. She was just, trying to project that into reality because for Christmas, I bet you she probably wants something that's, something that can be provided by a certain segment of the population. Leave your mind to wander on that, but whatever. He could have been home for the holidays, but this evil woman just stopped that from happening, and there's going to be another holiday where he's not going to be home. Well, actually, there's going to be a whole bunch of ones that he's not going to be home for because he's not here any longer. Yeah, but Erin Eldridge attempted to remove any doubts and refocus jurors' minds after 8 days of testimony. Yes, and remember, 6 of those days were exclusively of the state, and about 2.5 of those was focusing on the crash afterwards, which had nothing to do with the shooting death. It was just arguing Blakely factors, but it was something else that the state thought that, she should have seen that coming anyway. So why did you have to call the paramedics? Why'd you have to call like 8 BCA agents? Why'd you have to call every fucking member of the Brooklyn City Police Department, or Brooklyn Center Police Department, sorry, even though they had nothing to do with it? But yeah, okay, cool, you do you. But yeah, definitely take their plotting close seriously. This was no little oopsie, she said. This was not putting a wrong date on a check. This was not entering the wrong password. This was a colossal screw up, a blunder of epic proportions. And again, this is another reason why it was a bit of a head scratcher. Unless she really resonated with the jury, she was still incredibly butthurt by getting completely destroyed by Dr. Lauren Miller, Friday morning. Okay, the state's slip and capture expert, okay, critical incident expert. He was up there and he eviscerated her, and she was still butthurt, okay, because he brought up the analogy. It's like, okay, what's a critical action error? Okay, well, it's like, you know what, hey, in the first couple of weeks of a new year, you just put down the wrong year on a check, okay, that you, whenever you change a password, okay, you remember your username because that's been static for a long time. But you put in the wrong password, you get the error marker, and it's like, oh, okay, you put in your new password, okay? That's still at a lower level, an action error, okay? But yeah, no, she took that and she took it to heart and really just played it out for the jury and the world to see. Wearing a really, she's an awful looking, she looks, well, first of all, malnourished, but has a fashion sense of like a fourth grade art teacher and the enunciation of a fourth grade student. It was precisely what she had been warned about for years. It was irreversible and fatal. Yeah, again, you're told throughout the years, accidents can happen. You get trained, okay? And this was something else that was brought up that was preposterous. It's like, and I think Earl Gray touched on it. It's like, okay, yeah, Kim Potter, over 26 years, she showed up to every single training. But it's something, it's like, if she, okay, so she should have known better because she was in every single training. Okay, cool. If she would have missed one that was on there, that would have been the one that could have prevented this entire situation from happening. So it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't situations. And again, okay, there's probably some shit that you guys do every single fucking day, but you know, every once in a while, you fuck up, okay? And that's what happened here, okay? Yeah, it's a grand fuck up. Somebody died because somebody fucked up, but it's not criminal, okay? You have to prove a conscious effort to disregard what you're doing, that you have to make a conscious decision. That's just not what happened here. That's the law, okay? I still think she's an idiot. That was my gut feeling on this when I first seen the video footage that was there. It's like, how do you not know that that's a gun and not a taser? But again, she never showed anything that she thought that she was pulling her gun and just going wink, wink, nudge, nudge to the different officers that were there. Clearly, I've got my gun and I just want to kill a black guy. No, it's just never, ever what happened. It is a case about the defendant's reckless handling of her firearm. No, it's not. You should have charged her with that. It's about her culpable negligence. Something that she didn't prove. It's about what she did on April 11th. Yeah, and like I said before, not yesterday, Friday's video. Okay, culpable negligence is again acting in what we would refer to as a reckless behavior, okay, negligently, okay, disregarding what the firearm can do, knowing that what you're doing is being reckless, knowing that what you're doing is negligent. They didn't prove that. They didn't prove it at all. Daunte Wright's parents, Katie and Arbery, will have an empty seat at their table this holiday. Yeah, cool. Do you want to make it both families won't have that? Because, I don't know, you get fucked up on definitions too? Speaking to the jury, that would be, taking the court through the events of April 11th, minute by minute. Yes, well, no, she didn't. Okay, she just kept alluding to the videos that was there. You know what was there. But yeah, never actually playing the videos or anything like that because, you know what, hey, proving the facts and taking a look at the evidence that's there doesn't really do well for your case, but whatever. Taking the court through the events minute by minute reminded the jurors how Potter aimed her gun at Wright's chest, tracking his movements. She was not, Eldridge noted, tracking Sergeant Michael Johnson's movements, even though the defense claimed that she was trying to protect and who was, they maintain, in danger of being dragged by Wright's car. This is one of those insane propositions, okay? Like Michael Johnson, he's a tall guy. He's 6'2", so he's about yay tall, okay? And this is a regular Buick sedan, okay? What would that be, a Buick LeSabre, some shit like that, okay? No, he wasn't. He had both feet firmly planted on the ground, and he was only reaching inside. It's like, okay, listen, I'm a tall guy, okay? I'm a big guy. I'm 6.5 feet tall, okay? And even still, like, your regular Buick is wider than my arm span can go, and I got like a 7-foot wingspan, okay? It's a little bit wider than that, okay? So if you think that Michael Johnson could be standing in the passenger seat of the car, okay, then that he wasn't in any danger, okay, that he could just reach over and grab the arm of the driver and the shift knob and try to stop the keys from going forward, it's like he can do all of that stuff without being in any harm of being dragged. That's retarded. That's just factually untrue. That just can't happen. He also testified, which they didn't have to really bring up or anything like that he was laying across the passenger. Yeah, that's tough. But you can just go ahead and you can just keep characterizing that, oh, he didn't testify that he was scared. And again, why would a big, large, hulking man, somebody who a lot of people on the force looked up to, that even Kim Potter said was a superstar, rock star, whatever the fuck she called him, he was an exemplary police officer, okay? He was a sergeant on command. And he was somebody who, as Kim Potter said, I seen the look in his eyes, and it was a look of fear that I'd never seen him present before. Something to that effect. Paraphrasing. But again, they're going on body cam footage. It's like, how can you go on that? Okay, listen, it shows you a good idea of what's happening that day. It's like there's a lot of arms in the way, okay, because you got a still frame of the events that happen, the events that are in question, not everything that was attested to over the 8 days of testimony, but whatever. And it's like, okay, the body cam is what, center chest? Okay, so it's somewhere in on or around your sternum, okay? There's a notch that's right there, right above your abs, okay? In between the two sides of your rib cage, okay? So it would be somewhere on there. So for me, that's like what? Like a foot, 2 feet from where your eyes are looking at the same time, and you got arms and you got a whole bunch of other moving aspects, and you're leaning in, and you got your what you think is a taser right there, and they should have known the difference. They should have seen the picture. You should have been able to notice the different weight of your firearm and your taser. There's a 2 times difference in the weight. Yeah, cool. You got like over a pound and over 2 pounds when it comes to a Glock. We're not talking like a 25-pound plate and a 50-pound plate. Is in the heat of the moment, in the 5 fucking seconds that are in question from saying, I'm gonna tase you to taser, bang. It's only 5 fucking seconds that are happening there. Okay, there's a scuffle that's happening. And again, if he would have just fucking went with the cops, everybody, well, he could be in jail right now. Theoretically, everybody could have a full table for Christmas dinner, but he fucked up. And Kim fucked up. Eldridge dismissed Potter's claim that she saw a look of fear on Johnson's face before pulling what she thought was her taser. According to Eldridge, even if she caught a glimpse of Sergeant Johnson's face ahead of firing, she wouldn't have had a good look at him. How so? You got, okay, like I said, there's a still frame that's right there. Okay, you got one arm. Okay, that's her left arm. That's right. I don't know if you can see no, you can't see the cursor. But yeah, no, the one that's just right at Daunte Wright's face, that's her left hand. So theoretically, yeah, okay, her body cam is no higher than her shoulders. So she's just seeing like right over top of the car, okay? Right over top of the car, right through the top of the cab of the car. So of course she can see what the fuck is going on inside. It's just preposterous to say, well, the body cam that's right in the center of your being, that's the only perspective that you could possibly see. It's not like your eyes can see anything wider than just the simple fisheye lens like that. No, cool, couldn't possibly happen. But that's fine. Eldridge was blunt. She drew a deadly weapon. She aimed it. She pointed it at Daunte Wright's chest, and she fired. Yes, thanks, Tips. That's exactly what happened. And blunt, that's the only speed this bitch goes, okay? She has, I mostly like how her parents treated her with like no respect, and now she's just taking it out on everybody that's there. The defense will tell you that Daunte Wright is somehow to blame in causing his own death, but make no mistake, we're here because of the defendant's action, not Daunte Wright's. That's not necessarily true, but okay, I guess you have to spin a narrative for your own case. Oh, I don't care what the rest of this bitch had to say. I just want to get on to what Earl Gray had to say. God, they take forever. Well, yeah, to be fair, she went over an hour in her closing statement, but in a bullish response to the state's closing statement, well, it was just a parade after parade of lie and misrepresentation of the law and the facts, but whatever, they had a shitty set of facts that they had to overcome, so they just got to go ahead and try to, oh yeah, and also, okay, like one of the closing lines, just before we get into Earl Gray's statement that I just have to say, it's like, okay, she tried to bring up, Erin Eldridge tried to bring up that, yeah, Kim Potter said, okay, during her cross-examination that the police office, okay, where she was employed for 26 years was like her second family, okay? And she tried to use that as saying that, oh, by that means that all of the officers that you see, most of them we called as our own witnesses, yeah, clearly they're all biased and they would just lie for her. Didn't say exactly that, but just alluded to the fact that all police officers are biased. She would have been further along if she would have just said all cops are bastards and threw up the fucking fist. It's like, you know, you're going to have to work with cops in the future. If you make this argument that all cops are just, you know, of a hive mind and they're all just going to lie for one another and perjury is not a thing and, you know, a distortion of facts is not a thing. Is a bold move, and I don't know if it's going to necessarily pay off for you. But yeah, no, that was a preposterous claim that Erin Eldridge had just about finished on. But yeah, we'll pick it up here with Earl Gray. In a bullish response to the state's closing statement, defense attorney Earl Gray told the jury Daunte Wright caused his own death. Unfortunately, those are the cold-hearted facts. Yeah, if you would have went along, barring, what's that, Freddie Gray, or the asshole who fucking stood up in the back of the paddy wagon who ended up breaking his neck. I forget his name, but whatever, yeah. Barring one of those situations, everybody would still be alive today. Just saying. He insisted that Wright, not Potter, was responsible for his death. He struggled his refusal to surrender. He said, that was the cause. You guys are leaving out a lot there, okay? Because he came out like a ball of fire to begin with, and he absolutely threw down on that shitty closing argument. Gray began his closing statement by angrily taking issue with Eldridge's allegations that the defense had tried to run the jury down a rabbit hole of misdirection. They have to in order to get a guilty conviction. Speaking aggressively, he began, well, this is Earl Gray. Again, it's like, okay, Erin Eldridge has a predisposition of being cunty. Earl Gray has a disposition of just being like, your crazy uncle who's just, well, kind of like your crazy grandfather who just comes forward and like, look, listen. But he's far more coherent than Joe Biden. We apparently, were accused that we might run you down a rabbit hole of misdirection. That's what they said. Playing the video, not at the right speed, which the defense did. Okay, they played it at half speed. A couple of different exhibits that were out there. They played it at half speed. Okay, and then they kept showing you frame by frame by frame. It's tough because if they would have just showed the evidence, the 5 seconds of it, you would have realized, boy, that was a really quick situation that happened there, and there were some split-second decisions that needed to be made, but whatever. Playing the video, not at the right speed, where it showed chaos, playing it as slow as possible, showing photographs, as the state did. That's the rabbit hole. Kim, Lucky Johnson, Wright were fighting, so you go into the jury room, play, and you're supposed to be played. No threat from Daunte Wright. He broke free and took off in his car, even after he was shot. Yeah, that's the facts too, okay? Because I think it was, there's Matthew Frank there. He said that, oh, there was no aggression by Daunte Wright there whatsoever. He resisted arrest. He wrangled free. He got back into the driver's seat. He attempted to leave and take off and potentially drag Johnson, Lucky, and Kim Potter, okay? Or he could have just threw it in reverse to disable the two police cars that were right fucking behind him so they couldn't further pursue him and he could just leave. No, there was no actions of assault there. There was no acts of aggression that came on Daunte Wright's behalf. That's just a retarded, a ludicrous statement. No threat from Daunte Wright. He broke free and took off in his car, even after he was shot. As for Eldridge's assertions that there was no place for sympathy in the jury deliberations, and again, you don't base any of your decisions in the jury about sympathy, having sympathy for the defendant. But how did she start off? By showing pictures of Daunte Wright with his kid. Just absolutely no, just a disregard, just a pure hypocrisy. Can't be sympathetic for the defendant, but here, Daunte Wright, good boy, he did do nothing. Gray demanded, what are the photos Daunte Wright doing up there with his child? They're asking for sympathy. Not us. Johnson was worried at the scene. That's what he testified to. Oh, that isn't what he testified to. Okay, cool. According to Gray, it was false to take body-worn camera. Oh, just that single perspective, by the way. Thanks, Daily Mail. And presented as proof that Potter could not see Johnson's face. The body-worn camera was fixed to her chest, and he said, when she leans in, and of course she sees Johnson, a look on his face she's never seen. He lambasted the state for having the temerity to call Professor Steth Stoughton, that fucking soy-infused life form. Oh, they're expert. Yeah, by the way. Who admitted on the stand that he couldn't recall his own brief experience as an officer many years ago, over 15 years ago. He added, they have the temerity to say the cops because they're a family. Lie. When Eldridge was methodical. Oh, where Eldridge was methodical? No, she was plotting, had PowerPoints, okay? And she kept going and going and going. You say methodical, I say plotting. Gray was scattered, reactionary, and angry. Okay, there's a little bit of bias there. No, he was scattered, okay, because he didn't use a PowerPoint, okay? He just had his notes. He was up there, okay? Like, he presented his closing just how you and I would talk. Just like this, okay? He had nothing, well, he had something prepared, obviously. He had a bunch of shit that he needed to go over. But when he's just going, when he's just on a flow, he didn't have to stop. He didn't have to make his predetermined. And now, I need to take a breath. So the jury, and it says here in my notes, okay, take 3 seconds for it to really sink in for the jury. Swipe off the pad. Next slide. Okay, now we can continue. It was nothing like that. It was just a conversation, okay? You knew you had the points to hit, okay? You knew which arguments you were going to next, okay? But you already knew in the free flow of conversation when you had something that pops into your brain, okay, yeah, let's just explore that line of thinking, okay? Oh, shit, that's a little bit further in my close, so we don't need to go through that. So, yeah, okay. Was it a little less structured than Erin Eldridge, which that closing was probably perfected by the multiple different people in the prosecution? Was it more structured than Earl Gray's? Yeah, fine. But what was more persuasive? Well, let's be fair, the defense didn't get a follow-up closing argument, so just leave you to determine for yourself. But so yeah, what's not in this article, like if you just kind of want to read everything point by point, it's going to give you a little bit of a biased take. That's because that's kind of what that's what the media is running with, okay? There was nothing about race that was brought up in this, and there's a couple of different times that they allege, oh, it was the black man who got killed by a white officer. That was never brought up, okay? That was never a statement of fact. That was nothing that was testified to. So if you see that in any of the coverage that's out there, probably biased or probably slanted. But again, what do I know? I just watched and listened to everything that was relating to this case. The only thing that the jury's come up with so far was just a question about, okay, what day did the interview between Lawrence Miller, the doctor, and Kim Potter take place? Well, all of the facts of the case have been admitted into evidence, so if it's not in there, we can't just add evidence after the case has been rested. But okay, cool. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Probably maybe tomorrow. I would think, you know, hey, it could be fun to just go to a hotel for a night, but after that, yeah, fuck off. Even like we might get to the end of the day and I might have something to update. But yeah, Matthew Frank took the podium and then had another 40-minute long prepared rebuttal, which is supposed to just be, talking about points that the defense would have made and then just rebuking those and reframing them. So that's the last thing that the jury hears. But it was already prepared. And apparently the response to that, because the defense was like, okay, he prepared his entire rebuttal and he only spent about 14 of the 40 minutes, okay, of his rebuttal rebutting any of the points that Earl Gray made on the closing remarks. So can we get a mistrial on this? Because obviously they just ran out the second closing argument, and you don't do that with the rebuttal time. So yeah, they got an hour and 40-minute long close, and the defense, I don't know, it was a nice concise about 30 and change or something like that. But yeah, no, it was just Matthew Frank just once again just running down all the different points, and he's like, oh well, when he was questioned by the judge and given a response to the for the question or the motion for mistrial from the defense, is like, well, it was very easy to figure out what they would be talking about. Yeah, facts and logic and what actually happened. It was mostly just restating everything that Eldridge said, just slower, more monotonous, and I don't know, from the lead ADA who was on the case, but whatever. So yeah, factually, this seems like an open shut case. Okay, it's just all going to come down to the jury instructions, which are very good. They're very basic and they're very straightforward. They aren't muddled like they were in the Rittenhouse, okay? There wasn't days-long deliberation where it's like, should we have this proper phraseology in there? Should it be this? Okay, there's no subsections of different laws that are on there that would need to be parsed out by legal scholars throughout time. Nothing like that at all whatsoever. It's just all cut and dry. Did she know what she was doing would result in the actions that happened? If no, click not guilty. That's basically what we're dealing with. But the defense would like you to believe that, okay? And the prosecution wants you to think that any mistake should be criminalized, okay? And another one of their absurd claims was, because she had a taser and a gun, she knew how deadly her gun was. Therefore, anytime that you fire a gun, that means that you know what you're using as deadly force. Anytime that you make a mistake, you're going to be criminally liable. Like, no, that's not how this shit works. But I don't know how this is going to end up. I know, looking at the facts of the case, looking at the law that's underlining all of this stuff, it doesn't amount to anything further than a not guilty verdict, and it could have been done in about 10 minutes if I was the only juror on this trial, but I'm not, okay? And this is Minneapolis. This is a very left-leaning place with a 6-6. We don't know what the political makeup of this is. The jurors that are on the panel, I remember going through jury selection. It's like, it just seems fine, okay? But we don't know what these people's motives or intentions are. All I know is that, yeah, we're getting close to Christmas, and I don't think a bunch of people want to be sitting around with 11 other strangers for an indeterminate amount of time. I expect we probably have some kind of a development tomorrow, because, yeah, deliberations are probably from 9 till 6 tomorrow as well. And, yeah, the less time and the closer we get to Christmas, I don't anticipate anything later than Wednesday. But if we get a verdict, you'll be hearing about it tomorrow, because I know there's not a lot of interest in this case, but god damn it, I've invested this much time in it, and I think it is an important case. I'm gonna fucking see it all the way through. But with that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.